this video, we are going to take a look at how Starbucks became a billion-dollar success story. In the coffee world, and especially in the history of coffee and cafe culture in the US, Starbucks is a name of staggering proportions. It can be considered to be the godfather of cafes in the US. But every business has humble origins, and no successful business ever came into fruition overnight. This holds true for Starbucks as well. Most of the success of Starbucks is owed to Howard Schultz, a man who lived in the most austere of conditions in his childhood. He was poor, had a family who couldn't afford his education expenses, and was rejected more than 200 times in his lifetime dream of running Starbucks in the way he wanted to. But he pursued his dream, and it paid off in the most dreamlike ways. With more than 30,000 Starbucks outlets around the world, Howard Schultz's persistence and business acumen is the stuff of legends. So in order to know how Starbucks became a billion-dollar business, we need to first understand how and where it came about, how it transformed as the world around it grew, and also get a sense of the progress it made as the demand of coffee surged throughout the world. But before we do that, we would like to let you know that we make all of these videos for free. And in doing so, we also give you some valuable ways of learning about the businesses around the world as well as the economic principles that govern them. All we ask in return is for you to support our channel. And the simplest way of doing that is by leaving a like to the video. We'd also be massively cheerful if you subscribe to our channel. And if you hit the notification bell, you won't have to miss out on any videos. Okay, all said and done? Now let's dive into the story of how Starbucks became a billion-dollar enterprise. Number 1. Howard Schultz's childhood. Howard Schultz's childhood was not the easiest in the world. His dad did menial odd jobs and found it hard to eke out a living. And this was compounded by the fact that his dad, once on a job, broke his leg and had to be hospitalized. And during that time, he had no way to make up for the medical expenses, nor did he have any robust savings. That put a lot of strain on the family. Howard lived in substandard housing that the government put in plan for the economically disadvantaged people. During his time as a student in college, Howard Schultz had to even sell his blood to make up for his expenses. Despite it all, Howard did manage to complete college and chose the coffee and cafe industry to be his future. Lucky, lucky us. Number 2. Starbucks was not started by Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz was not the person who came up with the name Starbucks, nor did he start the company from scratch. In fact, the company was founded in 1971 by 3 people by the names of Jerry Baldwin, Gordon Bowker, and Zev Siegel. Initially, Starbucks was not a cafe either. These 3 people who owned Starbucks mostly sold coffee beans, and it was a popular enterprise then. Howard Schultz later joined the company as the director of retail operations and marketing. His work once took him on a business trip to Italy, where he saw the cafe culture and was really impressed. The cafe, as a place for socializing with other people, having intellectual talks and delightful conversations, was virtually non-existent in the US. In Italy, on the other hand, every other street was rife with cafes where people bonded and met new people. This cafe culture was established in Europe way before Schultz visited Italy. Even before World War I, Russian artists and intellectuals gathered in cafes like Stray Dog, which was a hotbed where artists, poets, and musicians discussed intellectual ideas with one another. Even Prince of Charles of England once banished the cafes where coffee was served because he felt that the cafes were the places where intellectuals met to overthrow his regime. Anyways, in a continent where cafes are such a wonderful part of their history, it is no surprise that Schultz was awed by the fact that cafes were the norm. When Schultz returned to the US, he told the other partners of Starbucks that they had opened up cafes and not just sell beans. But the 3 of them disagreed. They reckoned that selling beans was profitable on its own and showed reluctance to open up Starbucks cafes. As a result, Howard Schultz decided to leave Starbucks and open a cafe of his own. The name of the cafe was Giornale. After Schultz left Starbucks, the company took a turn for the worse. With its marketing hero Schultz absent, the company suffered losses. As a result, Starbucks was put on sale in 1986. Schultz was animated by the news and decided to buy Starbucks. However, the selling price of Starbucks was set to be a whopping $8 million, and Schultz did not have that much money. So, he took the help of investors. He shared the vision of how Starbucks should be run with plenty of investors, and it is said that he was rejected by 217 of them. One of the reasons for this staggering number of rejections was because he put the price of espresso to be $3 when espresso was not really thought of as a drink for Americans. Back in the World War, when American soldiers were served espresso in Italy, they found it too bitter and hot water was added to placate them. As a result, this milder form of coffee was dubbed to be the Americano. At the time when coffee was served in eateries around the US at a price of 50 cents, Schultz decided to put the price of espresso to be $3, and this was deemed to be too expensive by the investors, who claimed that people would be put off by such a whopping price, and that too for a drink that was not thought of to be of an American drink. But Schultz eventually managed to get the necessary funds. Number 3. Schultz put a consistent style to Starbucks. One of the things that Schultz did was to open up Starbucks outlets in various places. This made Starbucks a name that people were familiar with. And as people visited the cafe, they found a place that was not like any other place they had been to. They found a place where they could get the feel of being at home, while at the same time, they also figured out that this was a place where they could have a feel of the workplace. Starbucks also became a place to have conversations, meet new people, and relax. The other thing that is so associated with the Starbucks is that the people visiting the cafe get their names written in the paper cups where coffee is served. As a result, people get a personalized feel while visiting the cafe. Number 4. Burgeoning outlets. When a few Starbucks outlets had left such a wonderful impression upon people, Schultz saw this as an opportunity to open up more outlets throughout the US. He also opened outlets in Japan, UK, Australia, and various other countries. Starbucks also purchased other major coffee houses that were already popular, such as Seattle Coffee Company in Britain. In the 90s, there was a time when a new Starbucks was opened in a part of the world every other day. Cashing in on this popularity, Starbucks decided to open an IPO of the company, which further boosted finances of Starbucks, and Schultz was able to open up plenty more outlets in other corners. Number 5. A few hurdles along the way. It was in 2000 when Howard Schultz stepped down as the CEO of Starbucks. He was then succeeded by Orrin Smith. Under Smith, many more outlets of Starbucks were opening up. Although the net profit of Starbucks was shooting up, the new outlets did not fare as well as the older ones. Besides, due to the fact that there were many Starbucks outlets within a particular area, the completion meant that the outlets that existed for a long period of time also suffered losses. Noticing this trend, Schultz was rehired as the CEO of the company. Schultz immediately put a halt at the expansion business. He shut down many of the new outlets and focused on the core values of the company. He decided to put the core values of Starbucks above the profits. He focused on giving what is known as Starbucks feel to every outlet and made sure that there was a consistency in the type of milk that was served to the coffee that was put forth. Then there was the financial crisis that hit the world in 2008. During such a time, many other companies decided to put a halt to the money they were investing on their workers and cut down on the health benefits too. But Starbucks did not do so. Starbucks has a history of spending on the education expenses of the people who worked there, and they did not do so. Despite suffering a loss of $8 million during the economic recession due to the investment in the education of their staff, Starbucks did not stray away from their core principles. This gave the people who worked in Starbucks a feel of being part of a family. and not just a place they worked, and which thought of them as disposables. Number 6. Other things that makes Starbucks a billion-dollar brand. Starbucks hires a repertoire of musicians to choose which music should be played in their cafes. Many people feel that the other cafes play music that can be too loud, which can overpower their conversations, while some cafes are in the opposite end of the spectrum. But Starbucks manages to work on the music that is played that creates an experience of visiting a cafe. They also create a playlist of the music that is played in the Starbucks cafe. Starbucks also uses the data of people, such as what coffee they have ordered and what choice of food they have ordered. By taking these into consideration, they give you recommendations as to what other coffee you might like. There was a time when the aroma of the coffee that was served in Starbucks was affected by the aroma of various food items that were served. This was due to the fact that the bakery items were placed in close proximity to the coffee. When Starbucks realized this, they shifted their bakery items to a place that did not interject with the aroma of the coffee served. Getting any enterprise to become a global brand worth billions of dollars is not the simplest thing in the world. It requires meticulous planning and execution along with a lot of hard work. Howard Schultz took the company from a time when it was not even a cafe and took it to the most staggering heights one can imagine. From a point where he had to sell blood to manage the expenses of his college education to the point where he is worth $1 billion, the journey of Starbucks has been nothing but heroic. What experiences have you had in Starbucks that you have not had elsewhere? What is it that makes Starbucks such a delight of a name? Let us know in the comments down below. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. We also want more encouragement from you in order to keep making videos like these. You can show us such encouragement by subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell. In the meanwhile, you can watch the video on the screen.